There are over 1.6 million cataloged species of animals on the Earth. After hundreds of years of science and exploration, however, there may be as many as 30 million which have not been recognized in the scientific world. Many of these animals have been described by people for centuries, but there is yet to be substantial evidence proving their existence. While modern science often dismisses such animals as myth, cryptozoologists follow every lead in their quest to show these animals to the world. Cryptozoology is the study of unknown animals. This commonly ridiculed science, while not always legitimate in its undertakings, often yields valid results.
Cryptozoology, anybody's a cryptozoologist. You're a cryptozoologist. Everybody's a cryptozoologist.
Loch Ness Monster.
The Loch Ness Monster supposedly lives in Scotland in the largest of three lochs in the Giant Glen Fault area. The fault divides north of Scotland from Fort William. The loch is 23 miles long, a mile in width, and about 750 feet deep. The loch is home to Atlantic salmon, char, eels, minnows, large pike, sticklebacks, sturgeon, trout, and various other fish. Seals and otters also live in the Loch Ness, but are rarely seen. Sightings of Nessie have been in print as early as 565 AD in the manuscript of Life of St. Columba. It seems that a water monster had bitten to death a man in the Loch Ness Lake. St. Columba made a sign of the cross and sent the monster away. Over the following many centuries, a few sightings occurred, but the most famous sighting was in 1933 by Mr. and Mrs. Mackay. Their account began the story of the monster as it is known today. Mr. and Mrs. Mackay were driving home from Inverness. Mrs. Aldy Mackay looked to the loch, where she saw what looked like ducks fighting. She looked closer and realized what she saw was a large beast rolling and plunging in the water. A reporter from the Inverness Courier published the story, and Nessie was born. From this point on, visitors to the loch were on the lookout for the monster. The next famous sighting occurred on July 22, 1933, while Mr. and Mrs. Spicer were passing the loch on their way to London from northern Scotland. They saw a large creature crossing the road in front of them. Mr. Spicer told the newspaper that it looked like a large prehistoric creature and was carrying a small lamb. He believed it then disappeared into the loch. The first photo of the alleged monster was taken by Hugh Gray in November 1933. He didn't believe he took pictures of anything interesting, so the film remained in the camera for some time. Once developed, one of his pictures became a classic Nessie picture known worldwide. That December, Marmaduke Wetherall, a famous big game hunter, went to search for the monster at the loch. He found footprints on the shore of the loch, which he claimed were to be those of the monster. The most famous photo taken of the creature was on April 1, 1934, by a surgeon. He saw the customary disturbance in the water which precedes a Nessie sighting. Using a telephoto lens, he managed to get a clear shot of the serpentine head and a dinosaur-like neck before it slipped into the lake once more. The photo sparked an intense interest in the monster, greater than before, and expeditions to find it soon began. Tim Dinsdale took one of the more credible pieces of evidence for the Loch Ness Monster on a one-man expedition in April 1960. For 5 days, he found no trace of the beast until April 23rd, when he captured film of a dark object moving throughout the loch. This film is now used by many to prove the theory of an unknown animal living in the loch. In 1966, the Bureau for Investigating the Loch Ness Phenomena Limited, more commonly known as LNI, was formed. The organization ran expeditions to the loch over the course of 10 years. At the end of the decade, the group still had no evidence the monster was a real-life creature. The only current research group at the loch now is the Loch Ness Project, which studies the loch from a more scientific basis. The Loch Ness Monster has been spotted and has been depicted in various ways. In a 1975 expedition sponsored by the Academy of Applied Science, a photograph was taken using sonar and high-speed film in the depths of the lake. The photo suggests that the creature is about 20 feet long, with an 18-inch neck and a 9-inch long, 5-inch wide mouth, and 6-inch long horns, about 10 inches apart. The largest intensive search of the loch was done in October 1987. It was a sonar exploration of the entire loch. Over 250 news persons and 20 television crews turned up to record the event. The boats edged out into the loch, where they formed a line of 19, all fitting with low-range X-16 sonar units. 3 alleged sonar contacts were made that day. David Steensland of Lawrence Electronics said that the 78-meter target might have been of a very large known fish. The media was very disappointed with the low sonar contact, and the story of Nessie is driven by the media. The best sonar sweep of the loch could not detect a monster of gigantic proportions. Many of the pictures have either proven to be or admitted to be fake. One theory is that the story of Nessie may have developed from a myth that parents told their children to keep them away from the water. Then somewhere along the line, the myth transformed into reality. Much of the documented evidence of Nessie has been discounted. There's no doubt that many people believe that they have seen a monster in the loch, but considering the growing amount of refuted evidence, more than likely there is nothing there. Although this sea monster is seemingly no more than a legend, another aquatic cryptid has a very different story.
Giant squid astern, sir.
For centuries, giant squids, formerly called Architeuthis or kraken, have been legends, appearing in the myths of ancient Greece or attacking a submarine in Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Scientists now refer to this creature as the giant squid. Before its discovery, the squid was said to be an enormous, horrifying sea monster about a mile long, with giant legs able to capsize a ship, mostly noticed in the waters of Scandinavia. Its enemy was the sperm whale, which it frequently was seen fighting, and more than often conquered and killed. Throughout history, there have been many reports of the sea cryptid, the giant squid. During November 1861, the French dispatch steamer Electon was traveling across the Canary Islands when the crew claimed to have spotted the large sea creature in the water. While firing cannons, the boat chased the squid until they were close enough to throw harpoons into it. Later, they were able to successfully capture it by tightening a noose around the tail. Once taken aboard, the creature was transported to the French Council at Tenerife, and then again to the French Academy of Sciences. Here, the discovery was ridiculed and claimed against the law of nature. Years later, in November of 1878, the largest giant squid ever would be discovered at Timble Tickle. 3 fishermen had noticed the massive creature and pulled it ashore, mistaking it for wreckage. The body of the squid alone measured 20 feet from tail to beak. The larger tentacles measured 35 feet and were tipped with 4-inch suckers. These men, however, had not noticed the significance of the discovery because after the squid's death, they chopped the cryptid up for dog meat. Today we know the creature does exist, but it had never been seen in its natural habitat, being only caught in fishing nets or washed ashore dead or dying, until last year. On September 28, 2005, the first ever live giant squid was caught on tape in Tokyo. The scientists first thought that the tentacle they had on board, since it was detached from any body, was of a dead squid, but it suddenly began sucking onto the deck, and they realized they had a recently severed tentacle on their hands. Immediately, the team threw a camera into the ocean and began taping in hope of finding the squid which the tentacle belonged to. Finally, the first ever giant squid was caught on camera. Scientist Randy Kokovar, a deep-sea biologist with the Monterey Bay Aquarium in California, said, "That's getting footage of a real sea monster. Nobody has been able to observe a large giant squid where it lives. It's really an incredible accomplishment." Now that we have studied the animal, the actual size and information has been adjusted. It is now known that the giant squid lives in the ocean depths from 200 to 1,000 meters and is rarely seen. It is mostly witnessed when washed up on the shores of beaches and is much smaller than previously thought, although still large enough to wrestle a sperm whale. Its sightings have been recorded many times by scientists and sea vessels. In 1978, more than 60 were fished or stranded on the shores of New Zealand. This 34 to 46 foot beast has been said to have left its mark in several areas with its 8 arms and 3 long tentacles. Scars from their suckers have been found on the backs of sperm whales as large as 45 centimeters. While still large enough to cause damage to anything in its way, the recorded several hundred-pound squid is usually not the culprit of a sunken ship. In fact, there is no recorded evidence of a squid attack on humans. As the giant squid wriggles through the waters of the ocean, a more suspect animal may still inhabit the forests of the continents. Cryptozoology has many success stories under its belt, but an even greater number of duds. Many cryptids are still debated over by modern science today. The most controversial and famous unconfirmed and unidentified cryptid is, without a doubt, Bigfoot. Bigfoot is known by many different names, anywhere from Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest, to the Yeti in the Himalayas, to the Florida skunk ape in the southeast. The commonality between almost all Bigfoot sightings is the creature itself. Not counting baby Bigfoot sightings, most of the animals are estimated between 7 and 10 feet in height, with footprints between 15 and 20 inches in length. They are bipedal, walk upright, hairy, and almost always reported as being incredibly smelly. The creature's similarity to both human and ape has led many to believe it may have evolved along with humans to a point where it split, becoming its own species. Reports of Bigfoot-like creatures go back to the beginning of time, but the first sightings in North America were reported in the early 1800s, but not much is known about these reports. The earliest confirmed sightings occurred in Washington state in 1924, where there were 3 reported incidents, 2 of which included violent attacks by Bigfoot on people. In 1958, a bulldozer operator in California cast the first Bigfoot footprint. This cast of a Bigfoot is where the animal got its most popular name. The event that truly brought Bigfoot into popular culture occurred in 1967, when Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin went for a horseback ride looking for the animal that they had seen earlier in the day. They brought with them a camera. As the horses approached Bluff Creek, they sighted the creature, and the horses began bucking wildly. In the confusion, they managed to shoot 952 frames of film of the animal walking through a clearing and away into the woods. When this film hit the press, Bigfoot was forever a part of American culture.
A large humanoid creature walking like a human being. When we came upon the creature, it was standing still by the creek. It immediately turned around and started to walk away. There is no way that this could ever be falsified, or any man could be in a suit because of the movement of the muscle underneath the hair.
The cases for and against the existence of Bigfoot are surprisingly strong. The most prevailing bits of evidence for Bigfoot existing are obviously eyewitness accounts, track castings, and dozens of audio recordings. Hundreds of Bigfoot sightings are made every year all over the country, and every state in the country has had at least one. Most are similar in their descriptions, both in the appearance and mannerisms of the animal. Additionally, 550 track castings, studied by W. Henner Fehrenbach, all approved to have the same or very similar stride length. If they were hoaxes, hundreds of people must have done serious research and cooperated very closely to create such similarities. There is also significant physical evidence to support the animal's existence, ranging from unidentified hair samples to an alleged Bigfoot hand found last year. On the other side of the argument, the points are equally valid. If a Bigfoot is so large, why are the humans not seeing them all the time? Why have we not found any Bigfoot corpses or captured any live animal? Why is almost every photograph and video of the animal blurry or completely useless? Why do the many expeditions to capture one of the animals all come back empty? Due to the fact that it's much harder to disprove something exists than it is to prove that it does, most Bigfoot enthusiasts choose to ignore all these questions and focus on finding the animal itself. Modern-day Bigfoot research is as varied as the people doing it. One researcher, John Eric Beckjord, researches the animal from a paranormal point of view. He believes that Bigfoot, like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, can go in and out of being by traveling through interdimensional wormholes. This explains many of the questions posed by Bigfoot skeptics, but for most, it fails to convince. Another noted researcher, perhaps the most famous and prolific of all modern researchers, is Tom Biscardi. It was his research team that acquired an alleged Bigfoot hand, and that has just finished production of its breakthrough film, Bigfoot Lives. He estimates that the film will prove Bigfoot's existence to the world. Still, without live specimens or legitimate video evidence proving its existence, it is impossible to say with certainty whether or not the creature lives. Only time will tell. Many species are left undiscovered to date. Researchers have tried to prove the existence of some of these animals. The Loch Ness Monster has been discounted multiple times. No serious accounts have been documented and recorded in the past 2 decades. The giant squid was once a myth of the ocean until recently. Its discovery has given renewed credibility to the field of cryptozoology. Bigfoot, however, remains at large. It is uncertain if it will be possible to ever disprove its existence, so many will continue to search for it indefinitely, or until it is found. It, like many cryptids, may well fascinate cryptozoologists and the population in general for generations to come. Thus is the attraction to cryptozoology, the study of unknown animals. It is almost impossible to be wrong.